So you might not know me, but you might have eaten at some of our restaurants. If we haven't grown into your city or state from where you're from, we're going to. Right now we have 10 locations, but we're trying to build to 50, and we're looking at locations in Houston and in Miami and Seattle and New York, so we'll get there. But some of you that have got to try it in Vegas or LA and Chicago, we have X-Pot, Nico X, Chubby Cattle, Wagyu House Mikia, Chubby Noodles, that's coming up as well. Shout out to that. And then I'm excited also for those of you who haven't tried it yet to try it this weekend in your Vegas. Since you're here, this is going to be a 10-minute of my advertisement to the restaurants. Just kidding, just kidding. But I do have gift cards for you guys in your gift bag to show my appreciation for all your support over the years. And the fact that I could be standing here today is really our community support for our restaurants and concepts. So thank you so much for that. And please make sure you do get the gift bag and get to try it out over the weekend. Feel free. So this is like an Instagram reel, right, of my life, of my career. And a lot of you will understand that when you're on social media, you see the best part of people's life. This is what you see. 10 restaurants, must be living a great life. This is, a journey. A lot of people ask me, how did you get started? Your family's in the restaurant business? Is that what it is? Or family invested? So today I'm sharing the journey and story with you guys on how you can go from nothing, zero, to somewhere and be able to have food and representation around the country. To get there, we're going to talk about, like in boxing match, this is my round one. I was born in Shanghai, China, and growing up there, I was a B- student. So for those of you that are immigrated from China, you know how difficult and challenging their elementary math classes are. So already, I was not going to do well there. So my only other option was to move to the US. So here, obviously, I became the best student in my class. Just kidding. But seriously, no, I'm kidding. Actually, when I got here, I really didn't speak English. With the broken English I learned in China, I couldn't speak English, so it was very challenging. And this was middle school, so you know how kids are really mean in 6th grade. And even my own kind that are born here, like, yo, you don't speak English. Like, you got to sit with the non-English speaking Chinese students, There's like a divide of like English speaking Chinese students and non-English ones. So that was very challenging. And at that moment, you can ask yourself, that was my round one in the boxing match. Do I go back to where I'm comfortable in China, where I'm an average student, but at least I can have friends and communicate, or I continue on? So this is where I roll with the punches and decided that I'm going to double down and learn English. But what's interesting in life, oftentimes your challenges become your success and becomes your advantage. And at a younger age, we don't know that. But later when you find out, always come in first full circle. So being bilingual, understanding both cultures, I was able to create an ad agency out of high school. Well, it wasn't really an ad agency yet. It was just my best friend and I doing our best to go pitch to every restaurant owner in New York to trust 2 18-year-olds out of high school. And this is, by the way, a picture of us in a beautiful office, seeing the landscape of New York. Obviously not. For those of you that watch Billy and Suits, Mad Men, you have this amazing office on Gap Year you see the view of Central Park. No, you get none of that here. What I have is a window that you look into another building 3 feet away, the walls of the other building. But we were happy in that first office because we're making a dream. To the outside, people are like, wow, there are 2 18-year-olds. And by the way, his family almost kicked me out of his life, my best friend's life, because he's going to Harvard. And I'm like, hey, why don't you take a gap year to do something that, maybe you won't go back to Harvard. I don't know. So amazingly, even though we were making less than minimum wage, living our dream, we were still living our dream, and we loved it. We did our best. We made so many mistakes in the agency, but today we continued through with it. And today, actually, my co-founder's here with Ada, who's running all of this. So shout out to Ada. And now it's an agency with over 50 employees in New York, managing over 200 Chinese and Asian restaurant brands across the country. Many of the international, bigger than Chubby Cattle X-Pot, that are building in the entire United States. So it's very cool to see that. Even though we didn't make much money, very little actually, for the number of hours we put in, things will always come out of your experiences. And that's what I've learned now looking back. I got to meet my partner in the restaurant space, Harvey, at one of our restaurant clients' place. And there's like, hey, we just met. Why don't you wire me $40,000 and we can be restaurant partners and start this thing? I just met you. And I said, yes, why not? So hopefully at this conference, you get to meet your future restaurant partner or partner in general and wire him 40 grand. No, I'm joking. Don't do that. So obviously it's a risk that I took. I was young. I was naive. I didn't know what's good or not, but both of us were naive. And we say, hey, want to build a restaurant and break the frontier of what Asian food is known for. What is Asian food known for when we just started? Or even today, what's Chinese food? Most people would know it, Panda Express. It's an amazing thing they've done for Chinese takeout, but it's always been Chinese food or Asian food is cheap, fast, and dirty. And that's what we're known for. It's crazy about a culture that you see is the representation of their food. You see Italian food, French foods, Michelin, right? Italian food has culture, but when it comes to Asian food, it's just cheap. You got to go for the cheaper option. There's always cheaper option. We're always competing with each other to see who can make a cheaper Chinese takeout. And you look at a Chinese takeout now, it's still $10 for chicken broccoli, right? Even with all this crazy inflation. I mean, the milk carton is now $10 in the supermarket now. So we wanted to make a difference. And we had a dream. We have no experience and no hard skills in restaurant. Today, I still don't cook. I don't know how to cook. So here is modern day Chubby Cattle. This is the first day of our opening. It seems like a smooth process after the 40K we wired, right? Not at all. Let me tell you, we went to every landlord that's 18, 19-year-olds, like, hey, we want to get in your space, please. This is going to be a hot pot experience. And you know what the landlord said? Hot pot? What is that, like a weed place? You know, like, no one knew what hot pot was, and they're not going to put a hot pot restaurant there, right? So no landlord wanted us. The only way for us to get it is to buy this Chinese restaurant out at this unprofitable Chinese restaurant. We had to pay $400,000 for it. So my 40K didn't go far in terms of building there. Put all of our life savings. We got whatever partners we can find. We didn't really do our due diligence on our investors and just say, hey, we got to open however we can. But this is our first day of opening, actually, with our team of misfits and seeing, a lot of team members are still here with us today and the founding partners here in this picture. But this is our first location. And truly, I did not know that I was going to continue with the restaurant space, considering that, obviously, all the challenges we face. And by the time we opened, I haven't taken $1 of salary. I basically took whatever I made in the ad agency and poured it into this passion project. So even though we weren't making money, one great thing turned out to be was that our customers actually loved it so much, and they see that we're getting busier. They're like, hey, why don't you guys open in our city, in Denver, in Philadelphia, when I went to school? And we had a decision to make. Oh, God, we're not even making money in our first location yet. How are we going to open in these ones? Do we continue or do we wait? And one thing that my partner and I always have in common, and I think this is the most important thing, is having the iron chin, is the ability to go all in on these decisions. Don't go all in on the casino, but in Vegas. But definitely go all in on your project. So we decided to say, hey, we'll take it on. So this is the construction site that you will see of Philly, of Denver, and you can just see, like, for us, it was crazy. We could have gone the traditional route of going to school. I was at Wharton, not a bad school, and continue out, go consulting, investment banking, and obviously our family at this point is like, what are you doing with your life? And running construction in restaurants and the crazy stories that come with it. So I remember also days that he would be able to live, inside the construction site overnight because at the time just no budget to live in a hotel. And that's the type of mentality I always appreciate and admire in my partner, that he's just so in love with the project and the passion of building the creation. So things seem to turn around. This is the uphill, right? In round 4 of the boxing match, you had some downhill, some challenges, but finally you were able to open the restaurants. And here's a huge high in our journey of entrepreneurship when the Venetian Resort decided to invite us and pay us money to go and open a concept, and now it's known as the X-Pot. So obviously we went from a huge transition of going from us having to pitch landlord what is hot pot to the Venetian secretly going to all of our restaurant spots and then decided to say, hey, we want your concept, we want a Chubby Cattle inside the Venetian, and here's $1 million, right? So like this is a huge news for us, and we're super excited. So even though we're dealing with all these challenges at our restaurants, this was hope for us. So at every point, there were these small milestones that even though we're not there in our goal, that pushed us forward. So we had the decision to make. Do we take on this huge project for us that we're not ready capitalized. We're not capitalized for, right? If you go to my financial advisor, like, yeah, I don't think you have the capital for this $10 million project. And this is the biggest project. We go to raise capital, and we decided to go all in. We put all the profit we made. We continue to raise capital from investors. Just as we're about to open, we're super excited. Guess what happened? COVID, our favorite, COVID. So COVID happened, and boom, there it goes. 6 years, 7 years of work, and you have another major decision to make. At that point, we're already all in the project. Do we take on more loans, personal loans, to ensure that we can open up XPOT without knowing that what will happen? We don't know if people will even like XPOT. Will anyone pay over $100 per person for Hot Pot? We got a lot of feedback saying, what the heck? I'm not paying for that, right? All this. So do we continue or do we not? We didn't even know the feedback at the time. But of course, one thing my partner and I have in common is that we got to see it through. And we went all in. We took on loans. He sold his homes. We sold his cars even. We sold everything we have to loan the company the money it needed to get through for all the locations to stay open. Thankfully, obviously, spoilers alert, we're here today. So we didn't go bankrupt and we didn't close it down. But I just wanted to let you guys know that this story could have easily been different. It's one decision away from being different all the time. When Vegas, the first Chubby Cattle wasn't profitable, when landlord wouldn't let us in, when COVID happened, right? These are all examples of punches that are thrown to my chin, and I have to take it. And you take it every day. I had problems yesterday at all the locations. Every day you will experience problems, and you can make a decision. You just get so used to the punches that you don't even feel them anymore, and you feel like this is just, you start to enjoying it. It's kind of an interesting thing. You start to enjoy the process and start to realize when you look back, those tough, challenging parts of your life become very important to you, and it become the highlights of your life. So fast forward a few years from COVID, we had our record highs, and obviously we're here, and now we have 10 locations. We're in round 6 of the boxing match. We're halfway through there. I think for this venture, we built 10 locations over the past 8 years. It didn't happen overnight. One step by one step, we have to show the success. Like previously, like what Pat said, you have to show the success so the investors will come. And we have now 10 more locations opening up in 2023. Oh my God, I'm losing track of time. 2023, and as you can see, we're projecting to do this year around $100 million in revenue, and we continue to scale out. But this all started. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And we continue to venture into the unknown, right? We created now the first restaurant royalty program, a lifetime royalty program with points, the way that you have like Hyatt or Marriott or flights, but there's not like a restaurant group point system that you can have a group and have points earned and use at all these restaurant concepts. So we're creating the first using Web3 and blockchain technology. That's the unknown. Again, people are like, well, you're going to create NFTs. NFTs are terrible right now, right? Like, you shouldn't be an NFT. This is 2023. That's still 2022. So we're making these revolutions. We're bringing automation to the kitchen, automation to front of house, automation to back of house. We're investing in robots. We're investing in automated kitchens. And all these, again, are venture into the unknown. So whatever you're doing in your industry, you have to be able to venture into the frontier and be able to take that risk and stick with it and pivot. So few key takeaways of this sad story or happy story, however you like to see it. I like to be optimistic. Build at your own pace. For your project, for your industry, you might reach success overnight. You might reach success in 2 years. It took me 10 years to build to the place where we're in round 6, but it might take you 20. But compare that with yourself, because you compare those around you, the person sitting next to you, there are always people that are more successful, that are in different backgrounds, and you will have this mindset if you start to compare with other people that, hey, this guy's just too lucky, or this person's unlucky, right? But really compare yourself to really understand that we're so blessed to be sitting here today and be able to connect and have a community and build our own projects and enjoy Vegas. So second thing, have an iron chin. I wouldn't say my team and I are the most talented or the most experienced restaurateurs. In fact, when we started, we knew nothing about it. We had no mentorship. Our mentorship is our own experience. So the most important thing when you find in your staff or your partner, I think it's that work ethic. and the culture of grit and having that iron chin. And that's why we're here today, is because of that, of just not giving up. I mean, there's so many points that we could have given up, and it's probably the right thing, logical thing to do, to give up, but we didn't. And thirdly, there's no right path. Being Asians, growing up, our parents always tell us, go to school, be a doctor, be a lawyer. I mean, to be frank, I wasn't smart enough for that. So shout out to the lawyers and doctors. I couldn't do that. So find your own path. And that's why I've realized that a lot of people have noise. They'll tell you, yeah, this is not good, or hey, this is, no one would pay for this, or this is, way ahead of time, or whatever it is. You got to continue through. Even if it's not the right solution, at least tried it, and then you can pivot. And pivot with the punches, that's what you got to do. And lastly, you would never know where you end in your journey, so you might as well enjoy the process. And every day you have to, and not saying that you have to be a psycho every day. It's like, I love problems. That's the lie. But you have to enjoy the process of knowing your day-to-day journey, and that's the practice I have to have that appreciation for what we do every day, yet at the same time to have a goal of where we want to be. So thank you so much for having me. There's ways to connect with me. In this time, we'll answer all the questions. Any questions that you might have, feel free to, if you have already asked, feel free to ask here, or you can raise your hand. We can do a live mic as well. So let's pull up some questions that people might have from this. Let's see if anyone submitted. All right, we've got a lot of questions here. Okay. How did you guys raise $400,000 to buy the restaurant at 18, 19? Yeah, very challenging time. So when we originally started, we had a team. We figured out wherever we can get money, anyone that we can, high interest loans. Also from our own investors, we had issues with also their challenges in making sure you find the right investors. We take on some bad investors early on that are misaligned. They want to have high return. They want to have cheap food, lower our food cost, and that's not what we're about. So we had a lot of challenges actually with investors early on. So to answer your question, we took whatever money we could because that's the only option we have. Now we have a really good due diligence process to make sure the investors provide any strategic resources for us and actually can help us scale. So that was very challenging in the beginning. How did you survive without a salary? Great question. So continuing on with the ad agency, I'll probably be making $10,000 to $20,000 a month there, while volunteering at the restaurant group, essentially. So any money I make at the agency, when I say work there, I'm essentially going to every restaurant to say, hey, let me help you build a website. Let me set up your Yelp. Let me set up the Facebook ads, run all of that. So while doing that, going to school, I'll put whatever money needed to continue on with Chubby Cattle. And to answer this question, I may also add on, my partner and I both still don't take salary today. And it's this mindset we set in our entire team that it's highly performance driven. So our team members, I would say 80% of their compensation are also performance based. So it's really important for your team to make sure that their success, their financial success is based on their performance. You set the right KPI for them and you track that and make sure that they know exactly what they're getting paid and why they're getting paid that based on their performance. So that's something that we held on, we continue to hold on. What do you see as the future of the restaurant industry? Yeah, okay. I think there's going to be a huge evolution. I mean, the Asian cuisine is probably the biggest growth sector in the U.S. Same with K-pop, with our entertainment, and I'm so happy for them. I mean, this year we got the Oscar, the Emmy, the first time, right, for all of us. So it's a changing time, and through technology, the concept of what Asian culture is changing, and we're excited to see that. So that's what we see in the restaurant industry for that, and there's going to be a lot of automation in place. We have robots that are working in the restaurants. We've seen prototypes of that. We already have robot servers, bussers, essentially, that you guys probably have seen already that have worked at various different restaurants. So that's going to be the future in the restaurant industry for sure. There's going to be a lot of technology play for the restaurant space. How did you get over the fear, either the fear of success or fear of failure? General question, okay? You don't. You really don't. I think there's always this imposter syndrome where you will be. But what I've come to now, after being in this for 10 years, you start to realize that what you say, as long as you put in the work, you're a good person, you're a man of your word or woman of your word, you will get there. Maybe you thought that you'll get there in 6 months. but it will take you a year and a half, but you will get there. And that's what we realized. Like, say, hey, 2 years ago, I wouldn't imagine, like, just during COVID, like, hey, we're going to end up doing 100 million this year in sales. We wouldn't have. But as you continue to go through and you project what you will do and you continue to put work ethic and put work into it, you will get there. So I really try to focus on the day-to-day goals rather than being so fearful of failures in that sense. Why hot pot? Why not? So hot pot is the oldest traditional cuisine, along with barbecue, in Asia. But in the U.S., no one knew about it. So it was the perfect opportunity to bridge that gap. And for me, hot pot has always been about family, about enjoying with your loved ones. And there's so much nuance to it. And there's so much interactive love, I guess, that you give. Like feeding each other, you're making each other your unique sauces. And there's so much customizable portion of it. And on the financial side, it's, you have lower labor costs because you're doing the cooking yourself. So you have that, right? So we have a win-win in the customer side and in the business side. How much capital do you need to start a high-end restaurant like yours? So to give you an example, the X-Pod in Chicago costs us around $10 million. X-Pod in Vegas is $10 million. X-Pod Chicago is around $5 million. So it really depends on the deal you sign with your landlord and how much experience. Now, because we're opening so many locations, we can actually import our construction materials from China. We can import materials from Asia. We can also have a wholesale contract with the GCs to work with our deals. But I would say this is what you have to be mindful of. The restaurant space is very challenging. I will only start if you really have a plan to scale and retain talent. So that's what is your customer segments? It's interesting. Our customer segments will continue to change as we popularize the Asian culture and people accept our food, right? So in the beginning, I would say a lot of Asian Americans in the States when we started Chubby Cattle 8 years ago. And now, if you go to our Chubby Cattle Denver location, you don't see one Asian person in there. It's like a general population there. So I think that will adapt as we put more locations on the map and more people get to try out barbecue and hot pot. Do you believe that a person in their mid-40s can create viable restaurant business from scratch? Yes, of course. I would say, 40s today can be like the 20s, depending on how healthy you are, depending on your lifestyle. But I would say that it does take a lot of sacrifices in just the time that you need, right? This is not a 9-to-5 job, and this is the biggest difference. I was talking about this on a podcast. When you decide to be your own boss, you really work for everybody else. You're working for investors. You're working for your staff. You're working for the customers. They're not working for you. If that's the mindset, you're going to be a boss and they're going to work for you, then you're wrong. You got to be working harder than them, put in more hours, because no one's going to respect a boss that's just, oh yeah, I'm in vacationing here, that's not what it is. So my partner, thankfully, does all of the, take care of all the restaurant operation, the kitchen. He's always there, earliest in, latest out. And that's what they see. That's why I can be here today mingling with you guys, is because my partner is actually in the restaurant space, making sure, solving problems. So, but always possible. I will always say possible. What to avoid? I would avoid getting into the restaurant space without speaking to, if I were to redo it over, I would definitely speak to people that have been in the restaurant space, that can review your deal, that can review your lease, that can see if your concept is viable, and make sure that friend will give you the honest answer and honest feedback. I would say it's very competitive. 95% of the restaurants don't survive after a few years. And, to be that 5%, you need to have economy of scale. You need to have a niche that people enjoy. And on the business side, a lot of other things as well. So, yeah. How did the Venetian find you to pitch you for X-Pot? What were the key factors and decisions that got you to that point? So Venetian and X-Pot, they actually went to all of our Chubby Cattles at the time, Chubby Cattle Denver, Vegas, and Philly. And they just loved the experience. And it was just Chubby Cattle. They weren't thinking of the X-Pot. It was us who were like, hey, you know what? We're on the Strip. We have all these steakhouses that charge $300 a person. You don't see any Chinese restaurant besides Ma 32 that have that type of dining experience that's elevated, that's Michelin level, that's fine dining. So that's when we decided to create not just Chubby Cattle in the Venetian, but have the X-Pot. So that's how we came up, and we took a huge risk in elevating the Asian cuisine and breaking the frontier of having people saying, I'm willing to pay this price to try this, to try Wagyu from around the world, to have the freshest ingredients for hot pot. So that's definitely a risk that we've taken. But also, it's a lot of luck for Venetian and them to find us and build from there. Can you show us your contact info again? It's the way, ITSDAWEI on Instagram. So definitely you can shoot me a message. I try to reply to everybody and be as insightful. And there's a lot of people that come and pitch ideas as well to me, and I'm always happy to connect. I wouldn't be here with all of you guys. You always went balls deep in all your projects. What was the biggest factor that kept you going and not quit? I would say this is the part where I think it's somehow instilled in me that and this is my partner that pushed me. I think if I was doing this myself, I probably would have quit a long time ago. Is that the people that you're with, whether it's your romantic partner or it's your life partner or your business partner, you guys have to have the same vision in life and the same work ethic in certain things. You guys have different responsibility and different tasks, but what you want to visualize is the same. So there's just no option of quitting. And for me, quitting is worse than losing and done it and lost it. That's to me what it is. So the opportunity cost to me always outweighs the cost of losing. And that's the philosophy I live by, and probably why I'm not a great investor, because I've had to go all in on too many different things when I'm investing. But for our own operation, on the operation side, I think that's the type of mentality you need to have. What made you believe in your early business endeavors, ad agency, Chubby Cattle, when few people did in the beginning? Is there a sense of imposter syndrome? Absolutely. I think we even had imposter syndrome up to the syndrome just gets less and less as you see more and more people are validating your ideas. Obviously, the financials matter. Just the success of the restaurant group will slowly change that. But I think it's not normal for us not to have imposter syndrome. It's like the first time that you get a job, you go somewhere and you say, oh my God, I don't know if I'm suited for this, right? And I always grew up with that. Coming to America, not speaking English, I felt like I was an imposter, right? Going in class, I felt like I was an imposter. I couldn't be like my environment. But I think that trained me later on to be okay with what Pat earlier said, like fake it till you make it, but not faking it and not doing the work, but faking it then doing the work. I think was a huge difference for me. Like this persona was like, again, earlier, oh my God, this guy's like a restaurant owner and had one location and must be killing it, making a killing there. But really it wasn't, right? The persona for me was like, hey, we're doing the best we can. People are loving the food, but I was not there yet financially, but we did put in the work and do our best. So you always feel that in the early business endeavors to have that imposter syndrome, and you will get through it with hard work. Are you thinking of starting other restaurant adjacent businesses like your ad agency? Yeah, we actually have our own cattle ranch in California. So we're like a Wagyu business as well, actually, part of our holding group. So that's why we're able to supply Wagyu to all of our restaurants. That's why we can do a lot of cool all-you-can-eat concept, all-you-can-eat Wagyu. It's because we own the cattle ranch and we supply the Wagyu. So yes, absolutely. I think it's important also to have complementary businesses like the ad agency and the ranch, our own logistics company, and so forth. There's a growing trend of vegetarian or veganism in the U.S. these days. Would you get into that style of restaurant business? And here we go. This is why hot pot is great again. It fits with all your dietary restrictions. Just change up the soup base, change up the ingredients you want to have, and you have a vegetarian restaurant. So there we go. What are some attributes you feel you embody that has led to your success? Again, it's got to be the iron chin. It's just the act of not giving a fuck, I would say, to be frank, and really putting the work to it. I don't care what people would judge me for. You do your best. You have the best team, and you work. Just put in the hard work. If you're not the smartest, and I'm not the smartest, I just got to put in the work. When people are going out on weekends and doing whatever, I'm there, working till 3, 4 a.m. because I don't care. I don't care about what other people think. This is my life at this point, and you make your own decisions of who you want to be. And not having FOMO of what other people are doing, I think, is a key component of that as well. Just living my own unique life and not afraid of the judgment from others. Yeah, how did you finance each new location so quickly? So after Xpot, we've realized, wow, landlords can pay us for the concepts. So this is when we were like, all right, in order for us to get to any location now, the landlord will have to be a partner of ours and invest in our concept alongside with them. So that's actually a huge strategy for us, is to get these tenant incentive, tenant allowance for landlords to be our partner. And that's like almost a secret that no other restaurant operators kind of talk about, or they discuss that, hey, actually landlords can invest in your concept. So that's something that that's a huge secret to our financing ability. And we also have institutional capital now. We're working with PwC and different type of firms to raise capital to help us scale to the 50 locations in the next 2 years. What do you think is the future of AI and automation in the hospitality industry? I have seen robots that are working in the kitchen now, which is scary. It's a robot that you control from, let's say, in the Philippines, that you can control with a human, and they will copy and paste the cutting motion and moving everything. So the future is coming. I think we need to prepare for a place where there's less labor, lower on like minimum wage labor, and focus on how to utilize AI and technology. And obviously our politics have to change, our government have to change so that we can accept what's coming in terms of technology. But there's a lot of innovation in that space. We're working on vending machines that heat up food that will be basically an automated restaurant with no humans in there as well. When it was difficult to raise capital because of COVID, how did you secure the huge deal on Venetian? So the deal came in before COVID, and just as we're about to open the expo, which is about a year and a half, 18 months into construction, that's when COVID hit. And thankfully, we work with Venetian because they're our partner that, hey, we need to delay the opening because all the casinos were closed. So it was very challenging to raise capital during COVID, which is why we had to take on loans, which is why we had to sell everything we had for my partners and I to loan the company to get that to open. Which restaurant makes the highest profit? And which restaurants are you proud of the most? Most profit. So I would say the typical restaurant profit industry the profit margin should be around 15%, is really good. Based on tax returns on the US, the average profit is like 2% for restaurants. So 90% of restaurants are breaking even or losing when they're building their restaurants. So if you have anything above 10% in your net margin, it's really great. For us, thankfully, because we have our own cattle ranch and everything, we can control the cost a little bit better. When you get to a certain size for a restaurant group, you can actually share your GMs and share your labor, so that helps a lot as well. But that you have to, as you scale, it becomes better and better. Can individuals here invest in your companies? That's why I'm here. No, I'm kidding. We actually are working with, this is talking about technology, we're working with crowdfunding platforms that will actually change the way we finance as labor drops. The way we'll finance the restaurants are actually through customers. So this is something that we're working with the SEC and Reg D to ensure that we can actually raise capital from our own customers. And that's part of the roadmap for our NFT holders as well, is that imagine a day when you go to your favorite restaurant group and favorite restaurant, you're an investor. Even if you invest $1,000, you're an investor and you can get the benefits of the investor, which are discounts or priority seating or be treated as a VIP. And on top of that, you're getting your monthly distribution either as loan or equity. And that, I think, will change the way we go to restaurants. If we're an investor in a restaurant, we definitely got to go to that one. And you have higher loyalty for that one as well. So that's something that we're working on, and I think that will also be a huge change for that. So we got 2 minutes. I'll try to answer as much. I'll do a rapid answer to the rest of these questions. I personally love Chubby Cattle. How did you come up with the name? To be frank, there wasn't a lot of, in the beginning, this is our first restaurant. We knew that it's Wagyu based, right? So we talk about the cattle and alliteration. I'm always trying to bulk up, so we're always trying to be chubby. And this is how it came about. What is the preferred method of raising capital, debt or investors? Pros and cons. Yeah. I mean, huge part of it, again, we will like vendors to be our investors that have an aligned interest. And then we do take on local investors for each location that can really provide resources for us. So that's something that we do. And I would say raising strategic capital is key. We don't have a lot of institutional capital at this moment. Most of it are useful investors that can bring either clients or have vendor relationships or give us wholesale discounts on food costs or kitchen equipment, and they become our investors. Advice when newly pitching to investors: you got to have a proof of concept. So for me, if I build any projects, I will always go all in myself, or at least invest my capital and time into the project, and then show them, at least have a minimum viable product, MVP, and then show them the financial success. And from there, you can raise capital a lot better than asking someone to invest on just an idea, because idea isn't worth much. Having an MVP is worth a lot more, and then you can definitely raise capital from that. So thank you, everyone, for being here. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Let's have fun in Vegas, and thank you all, okay?
Yes. Oh, man. That was great. That was great, David. Wow, that was very inspirational. Like, I felt like I went through his whole journey. Thank you, David. And speaking of all this food, we're going to break for lunch. Food may or may not be there out there right now.